Here's a nice little clock which I'd like to show you. This is another Junghans loudspeaker wall clock with a mid-century modern design. It was featured in two different Junghans catalogs, the one from 1963 and the one from 1964. Originally, this clock had the 1963 design, but because I thought it looked ugly, I decided to convert it to the 1964 version, and eventually I left it somewhere in between. As you might see, it has silvered weights and a brass pendulum, and it is supposed to have a pair of aluminum hands as well, but because this clock came without a minute hand, I borrowed the minute hand from my other Junghans clock and put it on this one until I'll find or make another minute hand for it. The main reason I bought another clock of this type is because I wanted to have one of these Junghans 8-day wag on the wall clocks, which actually has some decent resonance to the chime rods. So now I'll do a quick comparison between the sound of this clock and the sound of my other Junghans loudspeaker. Here's what the first clock sounds like. And here's what this one sounds like. So I guess you could hear that membrane, which is connected to the chime rods, is still vibrating even after this long time. Even though I don't think that the microphone managed to pick up the complete vibration of either of these clocks, you can still tell that the difference is huge. This clock has a soft feminine voice, while the other one seems to have caught a cold. I bought this clock back in February this year, if I remember correctly, and just like most of my other clocks, I bought it as a clock project. And this is actually one of the very few clock projects which I needed to get parts for that I actually completed, or partially completed, because I still need to make that minute hand. And I'm actually very proud of myself, because that doesn't happen very often. So in order to help you make an idea of what I'm saying, I managed to turn this clock from this into this. I started working on this clock on the exact same day I got it, and basically all I did was I did some touch up to the dial in there. You might be able to see it. It didn't turn out that good, although I think it's much better than having a whole lot of black dots on that white thing in there. I also inspected the movement. There was nothing wrong with it, so I oiled it after removing all the black gunk from the pivot holes. I also removed some cobwebs which I found inside the case, and then the clock was good to go. So I tested it with the pendulum and weights from my other Junghans clock, and the clock has been behaving itself very well since then. There's not much else that I can say about this clock. It uses the Junghans Werk 748, which we all know and love. It has a silencer on the right hand side, in there. And as you know, it uses the Junghans membrane gong assembly. So now I'll let you take a look at the single clip which I recorded while I was working on it. Okay, so it's been about 3 hours since I got this new Junghans loudspeaker wall clock, and I've cleaned and oiled the movement. So now I've taken the pendulum and the weights from my other Junghans loudspeaker clock, and I guess it's working. It's been going for about 10 minutes and it hasn't stopped yet, so I'm very happy about that. Because this has become my new main clock, meaning that it stays in my room and it's permanently running, it requires its own guardian to keep it safe while I'm away from home, and that's why it has this little plushie on top of it. That is Flandre from Toho 6. And it's been keeping it safe for about 3 months. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you liked the clock, and I shall see you later. Bye bye.